How did a truck marketed as America's most fuel-efficient diesel end up costing its maker $800 million and fooling hundreds of thousands of loyal American drivers? Because what rolled off those Detroit assembly lines wasn't the clean diesel revolution Chrysler promised. It was one of the biggest automotive deceptions since Volkswagen's Dieselgate, and it happened right here in America. From 2014 to 2016, over 100,000 Ram 1500 and Jeep Grand Cherokee EcoDiesel vehicles hit American roads, all equipped with software designed to cheat emissions tests. These weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These were real trucks, driven by real Americans, farmers hauling equipment, contractors towing trailers, families road tripping cross-country, all believing they were driving clean diesel. But to understand how Fiat Chrysler pulled off one of the most brazen automotive scams in American history, we need to start at the beginning, because before the $800 million settlement, there was a promise that seemed too good to be true. The American diesel dream. The year is 2013. Gas prices are climbing past $3.50 a gallon. American truck owners are feeling the pain at the pump. European diesels are dominating overseas with incredible fuel economy. But in America, diesel means big rigs and black smoke, not family vehicles. Then Fiat Chrysler makes an announcement that changes everything. They're bringing European diesel technology to America's most iconic vehicles, the Ram 1500 pickup and the Jeep Grand Cherokee. The promise? Best-in-class fuel economy, 28 miles per gallon highway in a full-size pickup truck. That's better than most sedans. Better yet, it would meet strict EPA emission standards, clean, powerful, and efficient. The American diesel dream was finally here, or so everyone thought. The VM Motori engine, Italy's secret weapon. Here's where the story gets interesting. Fiat Chrysler didn't develop this miracle engine in Detroit. They imported it from VM Motori, an Italian diesel engine maker owned by Fiat. The 3.0-liter V6 EcoDiesel had been powering European vehicles for years, but American emission standards are different, much stricter, especially for nitrogen oxides, or NOx. NOx gases contribute to smog and respiratory problems, and the EPA had drawn a hard line. European diesels could get away with higher NOx emissions, but in America, you had to meet the standard, or you couldn't sell. Fiat Chrysler faced a choice: spend millions redesigning the engine for American standards, or find a shortcut. They chose the shortcut, and it would eventually cost them everything. The software solution, nobody questioned. Engineering a diesel engine to meet EPA standards isn't just expensive, it's incredibly difficult. You need advanced emissions controls, selective catalytic reduction systems, diesel exhaust fluid injection, and even then, real-world performance often disappoints. The engine loses power, fuel economy drops, and drivers complain. But what if you could make the engine perform beautifully on the road while only turning on full emissions controls during testing? That's exactly what Fiat Chrysler did. They installed what regulators call a defeat device, software that detected when the vehicle was being emissions tested. During the test, full emissions controls activated. The truck passed with flying colors. But out on the highway, towing your boat or hauling your tools, those controls scaled back. The truck ran better, got better mileage, and pumped out up to 20 times the legal limit of NOx emissions. American drivers never knew their clean diesel was actually dirtier than a gas engine. The marketing blitz that sold the dream. Fiat Chrysler didn't just sell a truck, they sold a revolution. Their marketing campaign was brilliant and relentless. Ram 1500 EcoDiesel ads flooded TV screens during football games, showing hardworking Americans hauling heavy loads while a smooth voiceover promised capability without compromise. The Jeep Grand Cherokee EcoDiesel became the ultimate family adventure vehicle, clean enough for California, tough enough for Colorado. Dealerships trained salespeople to emphasize the fuel savings. At $3.50 per gallon, An EcoDiesel could save an owner $1,500 a year compared to the gas V8. Over 5 years, that's real money, enough to pay for a vacation or a new set of tools. Consumer Reports praised the vehicles. Automotive journalists raved about the smooth power delivery and impressive range. Nobody questioned whether the emissions claims were real, because why would they? This was Chrysler, an American institution. They wouldn't lie to us, would they? Volkswagen scandal opens Pandora's box. September 2015. Volkswagen's Dieselgate scandal explodes across headlines. The German automaker had been using defeat devices in 11 million vehicles worldwide, including 500,000 in America. The EPA was furious, environmental groups were outraged, and suddenly every diesel vehicle in America was under scrutiny. Regulators started asking a simple question: if Volkswagen cheated, who else did? The EPA began testing other diesel vehicles, and Fiat Chrysler's EcoDiesels were near the top of the list. In January 2017, just days before President Obama left office, the EPA dropped a bombshell. Fiat Chrysler had installed illegal defeat devices in over 100,000 Ram 1500 and Jeep Grand Cherokee diesels sold between 2014 and 2016. The very trucks and SUVs that promised clean diesel were cheating just like Volkswagen. American drivers felt betrayed, and the legal battle was just beginning. If you've made it this far, you're clearly interested in the truth behind America's biggest automotive scandals. Do me a favor. Hit that like button. Drop a comment below telling us if you owned an EcoDiesel or what you think about corporate fraud in Detroit, and subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation. Right, let's continue. The 8 auxiliary emissions control devices. Now, here's where the technical deception gets really sophisticated. Fiat Chrysler didn't use just one defeat device, they used 8 separate auxiliary emissions control devices, or AECDs. Each one had a specific job in manipulating emissions based on driving conditions. One AECD monitored vehicle speed, another tracked engine temperature, a third watched transmission gear selection. Together, these 8 software algorithms created a complex system that determined when to activate full emissions controls and when to dial them back. During EPA testing on a dynamometer, all 8 AECDs recognized the testing pattern: steady speeds, controlled acceleration, specific temperature ranges. Full emissions mode, engaged. But out on America's highways, where speeds varied, temperatures fluctuated, and drivers accelerated hard, the AECDs determined that full emissions controls weren't necessary. The system prioritized performance and fuel economy over clean air, and it did so millions of times across hundreds of thousands of vehicles. This wasn't an oversight or a bug. This was intentional, sophisticated fraud. The California Air Resources Board steps in. While the EPA investigated at the federal level, California's Air Resources Board, or CARB, launched its own probe. California has the strictest emission standards in America, and CARB doesn't mess around. They have the authority to ban vehicles from being sold in California, which effectively kills sales in the nation's largest auto market. CARB testing revealed something shocking. Under real-world driving conditions, the EcoDiesels were emitting NOx levels up to 20 times the federal limit. That's not a minor violation, that's catastrophic. A single Ram 1500 EcoDiesel driving 15,000 miles a year was pumping out the same NOx pollution as 20 compliant vehicles. Multiply that by 100,000 trucks and SUVs, and you're looking at environmental damage equivalent to adding 2 million dirty vehicles to American roads. CARB demanded answers, and Fiat Chrysler's explanations kept changing. The owner's dilemma: performance versus compliance. Here's where this scandal hit real Americans in their wallets and their driveways. EcoDiesel owners loved their trucks and SUVs. They praised the smooth power, the incredible fuel economy, and the ability to tow heavy loads without constantly stopping for gas. Online forums were filled with enthusiastic owners sharing tips and celebrating their vehicles. Then came the recall notices. Fiat Chrysler was required to fix the defeat device software, but there was a catch. The fix would likely reduce performance and fuel economy because the engine would now run full emissions controls all the time, exactly what the original software was designed to avoid. Owners faced an impossible choice: keep driving an illegal vehicle that performed great, or accept the recall and watch their beloved truck or SUV become sluggish and thirsty. Many owners delayed the recall for as long as possible. Some never did it at all. They weren't trying to pollute, they just wanted the vehicle they paid for, the one that was advertised. The $800 million settlement. Who really paid? January 2019. After 2 years of legal battles, Fiat Chrysler agrees to an $800 million settlement with the federal government, California, and multiple other states. On paper, it looked like justice. The automaker would pay civil penalties, fund environmental projects, and recall all affected vehicles to fix the emissions problems. But here's the truth about corporate settlements. Shareholders pay, not executives. The engineers who designed the defeat devices kept their jobs. The executives who approved the scheme faced no criminal charges. The $800 million came from company coffers, which meant it ultimately came from shareholders, employees, and future customers through higher prices. Meanwhile, EcoDiesel owners received modest compensation, typically $1,000 to $3,000, depending on their vehicle and whether they had already sold it. That barely covered the value lost when the scandal broke and resale prices tanked. Justice served? Maybe on paper, but not in the real world. The extended warranty nobody wanted. Part of the settlement required Fiat Chrysler to extend warranties on emissions components for EcoDiesel owners. Sounds generous, right? But here's the reality. The recall software fix put extra stress on emissions components, meaning they wore out faster than originally designed. The extended warranty was covering failures that wouldn't have happened if the defeat device had never existed in the first place. Owners found themselves visiting dealerships repeatedly for emission system repairs, diesel exhaust fluid system failures, and catalytic converter replacements. Some trucks spent weeks in service bays waiting for parts. Contractors lost work time, families canceled trips. The warranty was less a benefit and more a band-aid on a wound Chrysler had inflicted. And if you sold your EcoDiesel before the warranty period ended, the next owner got the benefit, but you got nothing except the headache of owning a scandal-plagued vehicle. The fuel economy fraud class action. The EPA settlement wasn't the end of Fiat Chrysler's legal troubles. EcoDiesel owners filed a separate class action lawsuit claiming fuel economy fraud. Remember, these vehicles were marketed on their incredible miles per gallon numbers: 28 highway for the Ram, 30 for the Jeep. Those numbers were achieved with the defeat device software manipulating emissions controls. After the recall fix, real-world fuel economy dropped significantly. Owners reported losses of 2 to 4 miles per gallon, which might not sound like much until you calculate the cost over years of ownership. At 15,000 miles per year and $3 per gallon, losing 3 miles per gallon costs an owner about $500 annually. Over a typical 10-year ownership period, that's $5,000 in extra fuel costs. The class action sought compensation for this lost fuel economy, arguing that Fiat Chrysler had falsely advertised capabilities the vehicles could only achieve while breaking the law. In 2022, Fiat Chrysler settled this lawsuit too, paying out another $110 million to owners. But once again, the settlement amounts, about $750 per owner, barely scratched the surface of actual losses. The EPA's testing loophole problem. Here's a question nobody wants to answer. How did Fiat Chrysler get away with this for so long? The EPA certifies every vehicle sold in America through standardized emissions testing. These tests happen in controlled laboratory environments using dynamometers that simulate driving conditions. But here's the problem. The tests are predictable. Automakers know exactly what the EPA test cycle looks like, the acceleration patterns, the speeds, the duration. This predictability creates an opportunity for cheating because you can program software to recognize the test and behave differently. After Volkswagen's scandal, the EPA added real-world driving emissions tests, but Fiat Chrysler's EcoDiesels were already on the road. The regulatory system had a blind spot, and multiple automakers exploited it. The question American taxpayers should ask is, why are we funding an EPA that can't catch cheating until a scandal forces them to look? The Italian connection, VM Motori's role. While Fiat Chrysler took the heat in America back in Italy, VM Motori quietly continued operations. This was the company that actually designed and built the 3.0-liter EcoDiesel engine. Did they know about the defeat devices? Did they help develop them? These questions were never fully answered publicly because the settlement focused on Fiat Chrysler, not its Italian supplier. This raises uncomfortable questions about global automotive supply chains. When an American brand like Ram or Jeep uses a foreign-designed engine, who's responsible for emissions compliance? The answer should be clear: the company selling the vehicle in America. But in reality, the engineering decisions were made overseas, the software was written in Europe, and American regulators had limited visibility into the development process. Fiat Chrysler imported both the engine and the fraud, slapped American badges on the vehicles, and sold them as homegrown capability. VM Motori faced no American penalties, paid no fines, and continued supplying engines to other automakers worldwide. The diesel stigma and America's future. Before EcoDiesel and Volkswagen's Dieselgate, American consumers were warming up to diesel passenger vehicles. Fuel economy was improving, emissions technology was advancing, and diesels made sense for people who drove long distances or towed heavy loads. Then the scandals hit, and diesel became a dirty word again. Today, diesel passenger vehicle sales in America have collapsed. Manufacturers have largely abandoned the segment, focusing instead on hybrid and electric powertrains. That might be good for long-term air quality, but it eliminated choice for consumers who preferred diesel's torque and range. Farmers, contractors, and RV towers lost access to efficient diesel options because a few companies chose profits over honesty. The EcoDiesel scandal didn't just hurt Fiat Chrysler's reputation, it poisoned an entire market segment. American innovation in clean diesel essentially died, not because the technology couldn't work, but because consumers couldn't trust automakers to tell the truth. The engineers who knew. Here's the part of the story that should make every American angry. Defeat devices don't install themselves. Engineers designed them. Software developers coded them, test drivers validated them, executives approved them. This wasn't a mistake or an accident. It was a conspiracy that required coordination across multiple departments and probably multiple countries. Yet when the settlements were announced, not a single engineer faced criminal charges in America. No software developer went to jail. No executive lost their freedom. Compare this to the Volkswagen scandal, where multiple executives were indicted and one served prison time. Why the different treatment? Some legal experts suggest it's because Fiat Chrysler cooperated more quickly with regulators. Others say the evidence trail was harder to follow across international borders. But the result is the same. The people who actually committed the fraud walked away. They probably work in the automotive industry today, possibly making decisions about the next generation of vehicles. That should terrify every American who cares about corporate accountability. What EcoDiesel owners should know today. If you currently own an EcoDiesel Ram 1500 or Jeep Grand Cherokee from the 2014 to 2016 model years, here's what you need to understand. First, make sure the recall fix has been applied. Driving without it means you're operating an illegal vehicle with emissions up to 20 times the legal limit. Second, you're entitled to extended warranty coverage on emissions components. Use it. These systems are under stress and will fail. Third, if you haven't already claimed your settlement money from the class actions, check if you're still eligible. Some settlement windows have closed, but others remain open. Fourth, understand that your vehicle's resale value has been permanently damaged by the scandal. EcoDiesels from these years sell for significantly less than equivalent gas models. Finally, consider that while your truck or SUV still runs fine, you're driving a piece of automotive history, a reminder of when one of America's iconic brands chose deception over integrity. Whether that's something you're comfortable with is a personal decision only you can make. The broader pattern of automotive fraud. The EcoDiesel scandal wasn't isolated. Volkswagen cheated with 11 million diesels worldwide. Mercedes-Benz settled emissions fraud claims in 2020 for over 250,000 vehicles. BMW faced similar allegations. Fiat Chrysler itself settled another diesel emissions case involving Jeep Grand Cherokee and Ram 1500 models from 2017. This pattern reveals a disturbing truth. Emissions fraud wasn't the work of one rogue company, it was an industry-wide problem. When regulations become strict enough to threaten profits, some companies will cheat rather than innovate. They calculate that the potential fines are worth the risk compared to the cost of genuine compliance. And they're often right. Volkswagen's $25 billion in global settlements sounds massive until you realize they sold millions of vehicles they couldn't have sold legally. The profit margins covered the penalties. Fiat Chrysler's $800 million settlement is a rounding error compared to their annual revenue. Until penalties exceed profits by a meaningful margin, fraud remains a rational business decision. That's not how justice should work in America. So there you have it. The $800 million EcoDiesel scandal, a story of deception, broken promises, and an American automotive icon that chose profits over integrity. Over 100,000 vehicles, 8 defeat devices, and countless Americans who believed they were driving clean diesel when they were actually polluting at illegal levels. If this story opened your eyes to how the automotive industry really works, hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next deep dive and check out the next video on your screen.